On an early morning in late October 2022, the sheep and goats of the Sekakune District Municipality in Limpopo seek an area to graze. They search for grass amongst empty cans, plastic bottles, and other recyclable materials. The dry, dusty, and barren land offers little vegetation on which they can feed. Their bleats are a somewhat peaceful noise to awake to. This has not always been the case. The mining-affected community of the Monametse Village has, in the past, been awoken to the roaring sound of mining operations in their platinum-packed village. While the Bokoni Platinum Mine is temporarily closed for maintenance, the sounds of the machine are absent. When the mine reopens, however, the roar of these machines will return as the village's everyday hum. Welcome back to We Should Be Writing. In this bonus podcast episode, we examine the very present climate crisis and the impact this crisis has on commerce, the environment, and people. I'm your host, Tannur Anders.
Climate change.
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 The term climate change has come to the forefront of global environmental, social, political, and economic issues. According to the United Nations, climate change is the long-term changes in temperature and weather patterns. These changes can be natural occurrences, the UN adds, but since the 19th century, human activities have been the main cause of climate change, predominantly caused by the release of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases spread across the atmosphere, acting as a blanket and raising the Earth's temperature. Sarah Roff, an agroclimatology researcher at the Agricultural Research Council, told Wits Vuvuzela. Roff also said that temperatures exceeding the threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius from pre-industrial temperatures could result in irreversible climate change. To mitigate the effects of climate change, the 26th Climate Change Conference, or COP26, held in Glasgow in October 2021, saw global commitments to reduce the use of coal, the biggest contributor to carbon dioxide. South Africa is the 13th largest carbon dioxide emitter globally, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists. The country has relied largely on the minerals energy complex, that is, the extraction and use of minerals, coal in particular, to power the economy. This is where platinum group metals, or PGMs, come in. The Minerals Council South Africa says that the country is home to 80% of platinum group metals. Platinum is used in fuel cells, which can be used to produce green hydrogen and reduce our reliance on coal. According to the US Department of Energy, fuel cells use hydrogen to create electricity. Since they emit no carbon dioxide, only water, they aid in mitigating climate change. Platinum is also highly recyclable, which adds to its charm as the world aims to be more environmentally friendly. The PGMs industry also sounds promising for the South African economy. Despite 60% of the industry being loss-making a few years ago, according to the Minerals Council South Africa, it is expected to create 1 million jobs and contribute 8.2 trillion rand to GDP by 2050, both much-needed outcomes for the country. But what about the people affected by PGMs mining? And don't the negative impacts on the environment outweigh the potential socio-economic benefits? Louis Snyman, an environmental attorney and lecturer at Wits University's Center for Applied Legal Studies, had this to say in answer.
I think that mining itself will always have a negative impact on the environment. It's just how that can be mitigated.
Despite several PGMs companies making commitments to reduce their operating effects on the environment, those living in close proximity to mines often bear the brunt of climate change. The Wits Mining Institute's Ingrid Watson focuses on social and environmental aspects of responsible mining and told Wits Vuvuzela this.
Communities living adjacent to mines are often living in degraded environments where the effects of climate change might be more severe. It depends on obviously how the mines are going to manage it.
This seems to be the case, and it makes one wonder, should the profits generated from platinum mining precede people? Gilbert Moela lives just 1 kilometre from the Bokoni Platinum Mine in the Monametse Village. As a local of a mining-affected community, and the Mining Affected Communities United in Action's communications person, he is well equipped to give insight on what those living close to PGMs mines actually experience. Wits Vuvuzela caught up with Moela, and he shared some of the environmental and socio-economic challenges his community faces. Gilbert, the sound of bleating lambs is not what you're used to, living in a mining-affected community. Let's start with you walking us through your community. What do you see?
On a normal day in the Monametse community, you see the roads are still dusty, the schools are depleting, there's no infrastructure development, there's no high buildings, there's no shopping complex, there's no health facilities. Everything is just a mess in this community. You can smell poverty when you get into this community. It is not going to be easy for also livestock to feed off from the vegetation, which is dry in almost every season. And we always pray that it can rain.
Do you think the dryness and lack of vegetation has anything to do with the volume of water used by the mine?
Initially, before the mine came into the community, there used to be a river. And now, because the mine has tampered with the river table, we can tell that the river is no longer flowing as it used to be, which also affect how the livestock is feeding off the river and the vegetation. And this also affect the community because even the water within the community is very scarce. Well, to an extent that you can maybe at times get water once in a week, even though the mine almost have water running every day. And after several requests to the mine by the community to provide enough water to the community. The community took it upon themselves to block the access to the mine shaft until they come and listen to us. They all came and they promised and will start providing basic water services to the community, even though it's not on a permanent solution.
Has your community experienced any health issues resulting from mining operations?
In most cases, when mining companies come to the mine, they don't talk about health issues. The only issues they talk about is socio-economic issues, which also leaves the community to not understand whether the mining company bring also negative impacts of health. And even if you go to the clinics or you ask your environmental health practitioners, they will tell you that there's nothing like that. The mine only brings benefits, and the only environment they affect is the soil and your air pollution. And they are not forgetting that air pollution can also affect people's health.
The mine clearly presents the community with the positive aspects of mining in the area, such as the socio-economic benefits. But are mining companies doing enough to educate communities on their impacts on climate change?
Honestly speaking, I don't remember hearing of any mine hosting climate change awareness campaigns within any mining affected communities. In South Africa, most mining companies, when they came to the community, they talk about positive changes they will make into community. But then when you look into the communities where mining companies are operating, most of the community members are still living the abject poverty. The only thing they want to do in the community is to get out of the mine with profit and leave the community as they were before.
You were involved in a climate change workshop in December 2021. What was the community's response?
When you listen to the community's responses, you can see they want to move away from climate change and talk about the socio-economic impact that mining will have on them, rather than focusing on the climate change, because climate change is a foreign topic to them, and that poses a lot of threat because the community will live within the mine, not understanding the negative impacts of mining on climate.
It's clear that South Africa still has a long way to go in addressing socio-economic developments and environmental impacts on communities surrounding mines. As the world shifts its focus further towards mitigating the effects of climate change, perhaps by harvesting platinum and harnessing profits, both the environment and people can stop being harmed. You've been listening to In Depth, Harvesting Platinum, Harnessing Profits, Harming People, an episode of the We Should Be Writing podcast. This podcast is a product of the Honours in Journalism and Media Studies program at the Wits Centre for Journalism in Johannesburg. The producer, editor, and show host was Tannur Anders. The theme music was composed by It's What Are on Pixabay, and the graphic design was by Tannur Anders. Additional episode music credits and info are available on our Anchor FM page. On all social media, we are at Wits Vuvuzela, and you can see more of our work on witsvuvuzela.com.